open tournament. So we shall begin there. So, for those of you who may not be aware, Coercer has been running a small tournament of 1v1s with open systems, so essentially players get a week to organise and play their matches. And as you can see, we have Frolic versus Claw on Clash Teeth, a very closed-in, short-range map. And we have Galcian versus Galcian, with Claw in classic Galcian colours, and Frolic in his dark blue and purple. Now, Romper keeping his base runner and moving forward, it seems. Let's get production up, make sure everyone's building salvages. Romper seems to be a little bit off with his. Well, the Claw's much better. He seems to be putting all the pressure on his carrier. And he hasn't started skimmer fabrication, so there's not really much point for him to be out here yet. So while I can understand you want to be in mid soon, there's not much point unless you've invested in the skimmer tech, which Romp has. Romp has his up already, whereas Claw is quite far behind with his, so he's moved up for nothing. So all of this is wasted. He could have easily supported his carrier in getting these salvages full saturation. Now, something I don't agree with here. Romper's put his scanner here. Now, admittedly, Claw lost his, but it was in a forward position, so Claw knew exactly what was going on here, and Romper's time advantage has been spent instead on cleaning up a scanner. Whereas his scanner isn't giving him any useful information now. So Romper, I would have wanted to have thrown the scanner either in here or in here. Yeah, somewhere with some dunes to make it awkward to get at, or at least against the cliff face here, so that he can see over as units moving around. One of Galcian's weaknesses, and Knef's by association, shall we say, is their weak scouting outside of the scanner and the interceptors. So again, it feels like Romper's throwing away his advantage here. He's idling all of these skimmers. There's really no reason he shouldn't be poking around the carrier in force. So yeah, if I was in Romper's position, I would have wanted to take all of these skimmers. I would have wanted to check the expansion. I would have wanted to look for any targets of opportunity. Instead, he's given Claw a chance to get a second production cruiser up, and that's going to allow him to outproduce Romper. So his numbers advantage is already gone, and that's only going to snowball now. Let's see what... So Claw has grabbed Armor 1. Romper has no upgrades. So yeah, it's all incredibly wasteful. And there's no real advantage to it. But Claw is going to be in a position now where he can outproduce Romper, swarm him with sand skimmers. Although, really best not to fight like this. I'd much rather he pull these back, reconsolidate his forces. Assault ship? I suppose that works. Romper hasn't picked a tech yet, so that does put him at something an advantage. Claw really needs to... doesn't want to take this fight now. The assault ship, unless he focuses it down, is going to really... Yeah, two of them, there's no way. He'll just give up units for very little gain. Is there any sign? Railgun tech, which will deal with the assault ships, and I would expect Romper to go immediately into air. But Romper also able to get 2 artifacts off the back of this, which is pretty silly. This is... yeah, why would you do this? See, he split his forces for no good reason. Why would you not stick with your assault ships? But again, this is ultimately going to be a good trade as long as he focuses those skimmers down. 3. He lost an assault ship, killed 3 skimmers, but he also killed 2 artifacts, so I would take it. But this does raise a good question. How do you use assault ships in concert with skimmers? Looks like Romp's coming over to use the healing aura to get everything back up to 100%. Yeah, that makes some sense. Again, he really needs to... I think the best way is for him to vanguard with the assault ships while he knows there's only sand skimmers. See, again, skimmers going in first, they're taking damage, they're going to go down, and the armoured assault ships are not being put to proper use. They're not being focused on the blob, they're shooting at a single unit. I mean, a lot of this comes back to the problem with assault ships is they're just very needy. They need the backup. Now that the heavy rails are here, those are going to be able to strip armour with their Sunder passive. And that's going to open these assault ships up to the skimmers in a very big way. But yet, really, my problem with both players here is how passive they've been. Each has had an edge and thrown it away. Admittedly, Claw's edge was much smaller, but where Claw is right now, he should really be shifting into full eco. Romper is still operating off a single production cruiser, which is really not tenable. I mean, yeah, so if Claw either went aggressive, Romper is not in any position to deal with what he's up against. As long as Claw keeps his rails at the back here and his skimmers at the front, he's going to be able to dictate this fight. But not for much longer, because I would expect Romper to either have air or a powered carrier by the way he's moving it. It looks like he's bringing it to the front. But yeah, these heavy rails are now going to start putting damage on these assault ships. That is not something that... But again, Romper's just sat here. There's no reason for Romper to just wait here. He may as well go over and hit these skimmers. It's just too passive. He could have gone over that crest. He could have wiped a lot of those skimmers. He's letting Claw dictate this fight, which is just ridiculous. I mean, he's just taking 3 hits. He's not lost an assault ship yet. He could have killed skimmers in that time. Down goes that base runner for nothing. And again, with heavy rails here, you don't want this carrier on the front line. It is not going to do well. And yeah, Romper doesn't have any air in his hangar to deal with these heavy rails. So, what have you brought your carrier to the front for? Yeah, now Claw shifting into eco, so he's already got the edge here. He's just going to use the rails he's got to do damage, secure mid, prevent any more caps, and then he's going to go into full eco, which is going to secure him a massive advantage. The other thing to keep in mind, with Romper's carrier here, there is nothing guarding his home base. So if these skimmers go through here, Romper can't do a thing. These skimmers don't need to stay here. They can just go through there and start killing all of this eco, and there's nothing that Romper can do. Romper has nothing at home. By virtue of that, Romper can just send these round here and kill this eco here. So both are incredibly exposed, but I will say that Romper is definitely in a bad position here. These skimmers go through here, and it's over for Romper. There's no coming back. All those skimmers need to do is go for the eco. Not a good move. Those rails are overextended. Skimmers aren't moving into position to help. Again, there's no reason for these rails to be out here. No armor upgrades, so they are going to get chewed up something fierce. But it looks like Claw just going for the kill, and Romper's just going to try and tank it out. I mean, I can understand that. What is going on here? Yeah, really poor micro on these rails. No reason, like... just incredibly wasteful. Yet you don't want to get into that position at all, because you can't, you'd be retreating into the enemy's lines, but... So Claw taking a terrible engagement there, and yeah, he took off half the carrier's hit points, but it's a Galting Harrier, it's going to be able to regen that off. His production cruisers are still milling about here. And this is the problem. This seems to be a lot of mentality. People are quite happy to get into these frontline fights. There's no need to. There's eco back here, which you can just kill. Without an eco, people can't build anything. That fight was unnecessary. All that he needed to do is take half those skimmers and go around the back. But, again, this carrier is in no position to overextend here. You know the enemy's got heavy rails. You're only going to get 450 heals off that base runner. But the first one to take that step on backstab is Romper. He is going to happily clean up Claw's expansion. And with those assault ships with 10 armor, he can walk underneath that carrier and clear everything there too.
Defense alert. Enemy armor in. Taken 5. Destination locked in.
This makes some sense at least. So as you can see here, the advantage very much swinging in Romper's favour, having the skimmer numbers. And the rails are not able to contribute to that fight, whereas the assault ships are. But the assault ships have no business being here. They can't catch this fight. And they could be underneath this carrier. But yeah, it's just been a case Claw losing a lot of rails. They still have no armor. Excuse me. So, furthermore, even though he got refinery, Claw never actually shifted into economy. He never brought one of his cruisers back here. He never opened this wreck. So that's 700 CUs that's been doing nothing for him. He's going to win the skimmer fight here, but there's still the assault ships to deal with. Also, the fact that Romper has no rails of his own and has shown no sign of going air, assault rails with armor upgrades would be really handy here, because they would be able to help deal with the enemy skimmers and deal with the assault ships. But again, the lack of armor upgrades kind of makes that moot. It's better off with the heavy rails and just trying to keep them at the back screened by rails. But yeah, this is the thing. Claw can't afford to be making railguns when he's lost the skimmer fight now. He's got nothing else on the map that's going to deal with the skimmers. Yeah, that's... Again, he had a massive opportunity to hit here. There was no need for his heavy rails to go out here. He could have been patient. He didn't develop his economy, even though he invested in it. And that's left him in this position. So again, it's wasted investment. The other thing is, from Romper's position, he could have built a lot less of the assault ships and instead invested in air. And he would have had complete command of the map. Yeah. So I'd say a lot of this is eco victory. Oh wait, no, did he never develop past? So yeah, it's only 8 salvages per side anyway. So neither player actually developed their economy. It is just where Claw lost those heavy railguns. Losing all those heavy railguns, very expensive, and it's left him with nothing to actually fight. So some key aspects to consider when you're doing the Galcium fight. And air never came into this, which to me doesn't make much sense. But you need your skimmer fleet, or you need something that will counter skimmers. In both cases, Frolic had it, having both the skimmers and the assault ships. While Claw had his own skimmers and he had a dominant skimmer force, he could afford to have those heavy railguns there to do damage and prevent the carrier being involved. there's some air. I mean, it's token air, but that is the other big thing here, is with assault ships involved, interceptors could become involved at any time and would have rendered the entirety of his heavy rails completely redundant. But really, Claw needed to go for the eco when he had map control. Yeah. Still, good game. Clearly some misplays there by both players, but it really came down to Claw losing those heavy railguns for no gain. It is never worth focus firing on a carrier unless you know you can kill it. Yeah. Yeah, good game. Good game. Let us move on to game 2 and see how that plays out.